please rise for the prayer and pledge of allegiance. Our
Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item D on the agenda, swearing in firefighter, paramedic Nathan Hostler is not going to happen tonight due to unforeseen circumstances. Moving on to item E, approval of minutes from February 21st, 2022, regular council meeting minutes. Those minutes shall stand approved in the absence of any objections or corrections. Okay, they stand approved. Item F, citizen communication. If there is anyone in the audience or on the WebEx that would like to address council on something that is not on the agenda, you can either step up to the microphone there, or in the chat box, you can put a question or concern there and we will address that. Okay, item G, reports from council committees. G1, Finance and Budget Committee did not meet on February 28th, 2022 due to lack of agenda items. And G2, the Safety and Human Resource Committee met on February 28th. And, Councilman Bear?
Yeah, we met with Freedom, Harrison, and Napoleon Townships, Henry County South Joint Ambulance District, as well as the Village of Florida, and recommended to council the approval of the fire and EMS projected service contract costs for 2022 with those agencies, which will be discussed under good of the city.
All right, thank you. Item G3, Parks and Recreation Committee met earlier this evening. Ken?
We had discussion on the golf course rates and fees for the
Simulators?
simulator, and also on the fireworks display.
All right, thank you. All right, item I, introduction of new ordinances and resolutions. We have none. Moving on to item J, second readings of ordinances and resolutions. J1, ordinance number 007-22, an ordinance approving current December 2021 replacement pages to the City of Napoleon codified ordinances. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Joel?
Thank you. Pardon me, let me get to the right page here. And this is just something that, the update to the replacement pages to the codified ordinances that we discussed at the last council meeting. Nothing has changed, and requesting second read.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions or comments? Hearing none, Rox, please call the roll.
Becker Day,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes,
Ken.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to item K, third readings of ordinances and resolutions. K1 is ordinance number 005-22, and an ordinance amending certain City of Napoleon traffic schedules, specifically Schedule I, on the streets, street parking prohibited, and on certain city streets, and Schedule 3, stop and yield intersections as listed in the attached Exhibit A, and repealing ordinance number 030-19 and declaring an emergency. Have a motion?
Second.
Joel?
Thank you, Council President. This would essentially allow the parking on Front Street. There are a couple other cleanup items in this, but requesting passage.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, Rox, please call the roll.
Dr. Dave?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Okay, that is passed on third read. Moving on to item K2, resolution number 008-22, a resolution authorizing the participation in the Ohio Department of Transportation ODOT Cooperative Purchasing Program and declaring an emergency.
Motion.
Second.
Joel?
Thank you. This is a requirement of ODOT, of us, to enter into a contract to sort of tag along in their crack sealing program.
Do you anticipate a higher cost this year with the way the roads are after this winter compared to other winters?
Crack sealing is really based on how much they can do, like, we give them a certain list of roads and they get done what they can with the amount of money that, and we
Okay.
inspect it and we, check lane miles and things like that, so. A price increase would, only mean, less miles that we do. If that makes sense. So,
Would there
with
be?
some of the roads that are worse than others, then, this was a pretty harsh winter for roads because of the frost line,
Right.
and the freeze thaw and the heaving action, but I think everybody noticed that, but definitely a lot more wear and tear this winter than there were in other winters, so.
Right.
Do I anticipate less getting done as a result? Because we budget a certain amount, so we contract for a certain amount.
Well, maybe not less getting done, but more needed compared to other
yeah.
years that we may want to add some or,
I'm a huge advocate for adding crack sealing. And I think I've always been clear on that in every budget year, that you can never throw enough money into crack sealing, because that's gonna be the best bang for your dollar in preserving roads. 100%. And we added this year too. So this is the most it's ever been. I think every year since I've been here, it's gone up. Cause I always push it. I always push that. We need to keep adding more money into this, cause that's what's gonna hold them together in the long run.
But costs are also going up for that. Cost
Yeah.
is going up for everything.
Yeah, yep.
So the more money's
That's a
gonna be
fact.
needed just to maintain the same level.
Yeah, I think we've gotten more done in the past few years because we've added that much more, but this year's kind of that anomaly year where we're at that point where now we're dealing with inflation, and that's a driver, and part of that is they have to drive around, so there's a lot more gas to it too, so it's gas, the oil prices and everything else, and it's oil-based product, so I would suspect that we're gonna see cost increases for the crack sealing program, but it's through ODOT, it's kind of wholesale pricing that we get through an ODOT contract, so it's good for us. And hopefully we, save money by doing this, but it's definitely needed. It's always needed. You can never put enough money into it, I think.
thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Rox, please call the roll.
Dr. Dave?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Okay, that has passed on third read as well.
May I comment on one last thing? If you wanted to add more, that could be putting it into the first quarter budget adjustment. If we take a look at that and appropriate more to the crack seal contract if you wanted to, but it'd be something that Finance and Budget Committee would take a look at. So if that's something you wanted to do, then we could address it then.
Sounds good. All right, thank you. Item L, good of the city. L1, discussion or action, fire and EMS contracts with Freedom, Harrison, and Napoleon Townships, Henry County South Joint Ambulance District, and the Village of Florida. We need a discussion on this, or are we just directing the law director to draft legislation?
We've got a couple comments.
Yeah. As far as the cost, the 2022 projections, our committee definitely recommended that those be approved by the whole council. There's just a little bit of a caveat in that there is going to be some research done on the part of our finance director, the city manager, and the fire chief, dealing mainly, I think, with non-emergency, am I right, non-emergency
Non-emergency
transport situations. But that is going to be research done by our leadership, but that's not part of what we're approving. Does that make sense, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're gonna meet with the, some of the, we're planning on Chief, Kevin and I will plan on meeting with, the different jurisdictions to go over some of the issues or whatever it is that they raised. I thought it was a great meeting, though.
He wasn't there.
I know that.
But it's easy to say.
Yeah.
If I could add, just during the meeting, that was a very small discussion point, was non-emergency transport. So
Okay.
with that, that's why we're gonna just take a look at it. And what we're doing, the cost, and the revenues that go with it, to be fair.
Chief, you have anything you want to add, or, no? Good, okay. All right, then we have a motion to direct the law director to draft legislation.
So move.
Second.
Rox, please call the roll.
Dr. Day?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
All right, moving on to item L2, discussion or action on golf course rates and fees. Okay, Joel?
Thank you, Council President. The Parks and Rec Committee met right before this meeting and discussed the golf course rates for the simulator. And what Tony had put together, Tony did research, Tony's here to answer any questions or provide more comments. But basically did the research around our area and figured that what you see on the screen is the appropriate rate for what we believe at our clubhouse. It is right on the very lowest end of what the rates are in the area. So still competitive, but we're not shortchanging ourselves, but still being reasonable. Being that this is the only simulator in Henry County, so. Then it's, dates would be between November and March. It does take up a lot of space inside the clubhouse, so we'll have to break it down and put it back up each and every year. And then just, your basic rules, limit to 2 hours per group, per person. Reservations are required and must have your own clubs, can't carry in food and drinks, and kids 12 and under must be accompanied by an adult. Pretty basic. So, but for the purpose of, drafting legislation, just wanted to point that out and requesting council to direct the law director to draft the appropriate legislation to establish these rates.
All right, thank you.
What course are we simulating? Pebble Beach, Augusta?
Yes.
Augusta, you rarely will find that on any simulated program, but it's, I think the Foresight Sports is the type of simulator that we purchased, and I believe that has 15 golf courses.
Okay,
The Pebble Beach is up at one of them.
okay. Cool.
I see a huge savings with this already with the number of golf balls that I normally lose. on a regular course. I've only lost 2 in playing the
Doing
simulators. Yeah, so I know I'll save a lot of money. I'm kidding.
I don't, that's why I'm laughing.
All right. Okay, so can I have a motion to direct the law director to draft legislation?
So move.
Second.
Rox, please call the roll.
Dr. Day?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Okay, item L3, discussion or action to enter into a contract with Pyrotechnic go for the 2022 fireworks display. Joel?
Thank you, Council President. So Billy thankfully corrected me right before, and we do not need legislation for this. Pyrotechnico was actually bought out Melrose. Pyrotechnics is what the Melrose Pyrotechnics, which is the company that the city of Napoleon has used since 2002. And we did put Melrose Pyrotechnics in our master vendor list at the beginning of the year, so it was approved for a contract over $25,000. So since it was in that legislation, it's not required to be its own separate legislation for any type of like sole source or anything like that. So that said, the contract right now, according to the memo here, normally we would budget $24,500. This year, we budgeted $30,000 to try to, balance out inflation, what we suspected could happen, and it's been at this rate, and slowly creeping towards 25,000 for a few years, at least since I've been here. I think it started out at 22.5, and then it went up to 24.5, and now it's north of that $25,000 mark. So hence the reason why that was in the legislation at the beginning of the year. $28,175 is what we're looking at contracting with them. So we're seeking approval from council right now to enter into a contract with Pyrotechnico to put on the fireworks display, so we can get that contract around and they can start planning and ordering the materials for the show on 4th of July.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Just have a quick question. Councilman Commodore last year suggested maybe revisiting the fireworks display and seeing if there was any private donors that would like to contribute. Is that something we considered this year? And if not, is it something that we could potentially consider moving forward?
I mean, we could always consider it. How do you attack it? Is the question. Where do you go, and how do you you know what I mean? How do you put on a fundraising campaign for? And do you make it an annual thing? So
Okay.
that's the short answer is we talked about it, but it fell short on.
Logistics.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, move on to item L4, discussion or action on purchase of a mower for the Napoleon Golf Club through Sourcewell.
Yes, and this is another one that does not require legislation, since that was also in the ordinance as well, to purchase the mower. So this would be for the golf club mower, and do you have the? Let's see, it's golf course mowers are specialized mowers, and I'm trying to find the. Yeah, you don't have the picture of it, but it's got a.
Yeah, this is,
The decks
this
that-
basically will take the place of two mowers that we have out there. Our rough mower and our trim mower. It articulates, if you recall in the budget, it's actually called a contour mower. 82-inch deck, so it's pretty good size, but it can get onto the green banks and different areas that are undulating on the golf course, so. It's a $34,000 expense. If we, by going through this contract, it's basically like the state bid, only it's national. I believe we purchased through this contract once before.
We did. I think it was the electric bucket truck that was purchased through Sourcewell once before, so.
Okay, any other comments or questions? All right, move on to item L5, discussion or action, appointment to the housing. No. He said we don't need to draft legislation.
Yeah, we, We need,
You need approval.
Oh, it's
we
just
need
an
approval
approval,
for actually
sorry.
for 3 and 4.
All right, go back to L3 to enter into a contract with Pyrotechnico for the 2022 fireworks display.
Make a motion to approve?
I'll second.
Hey, Rox, please call the roll.
Dr. Day?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
All right, it's been approved, and we have approval on the purchase of the mower for the Napoleon Golf Club through Sourcewell.
Motion?
Second.
Rox, please call the roll.
Dr. Day?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Okay. Item L5, discussion and action, appointments to the Housing Council.
Ross?
You know whose appointment?
Yeah.
What's the mayor gonna have some?
I don't have any yet. I'm working on my 2.
Okay, we need 2 from council.
Last time this meeting took about 15 minutes. This has to do with the tax incentive review commission, council, whatever the C means. So, they're first, and then the housing piece is second. And again, last time it lasted about 15 minutes. So it's a pretty easy thing. I just gotta find 2 people to take the, and I got a couple of leads, I just gotta follow through. But yes, you need 2 people in council?
2 from council,
Yeah. 2 council members to do
and
it.
the meeting's like before a council meeting.
Yeah, it's like the first meeting in April.
Who was on that last year, do you recall? You,
And Joe, I think, both.
you and I?
So the mayor appointed, I believe, Joel Miller and Joe. That's what I've got in my notes. I'm not sure that makes sense, but, and then Lori and Ted Roars was on there as well.
Yeah, Ted would have to be one of my appointments.
Okay.
Okay.
See, I would imagine, because I think Kevin Yarnell was on that as well. I'd be at the point Kevin and Ted. And I think council has to appoint person plus 2 council members, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I think that is.
Okay.
I think that is correct.
So they could appoint by next meeting, so we have time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So we will work on that. Anybody else have any questions or comments regarding this? All right, item L6, discussion action, purchase of loose field update.
Got an update for everybody.
All right,
Okay, so since city council approved of the purchase of Loose Field, we completed the title search of the property. I specifically asked, based on Councilman Bear's question that came up at one of the council meetings, about a deed restriction, potential deed restriction. So I just had him flag any deed restrictions that may be on the property. And the deed restriction was found, despite being told that there was not a deed restriction on the property, or that the deed restriction was going to expire after 100 years after the transfer or the donation of the property to the schools. And that's just simply not the case. That's not a thing, so to speak. So the deed restriction was in place. And by the way, we were told that deed restriction allegedly would have expired in October of 2021. But the deed restriction says the school, the property that was donated to the schools must remain as athletic fields, and there's no end date to it, so it's in perpetuity. And we were also assured that the legal counsel of the CCHC, at the time the Civic Center, had reviewed this when they attempted to sell Loose Field, or a portion of Loose Field, some time ago, about 3 years ago or so. I did submit a document request to the CCHC and their attorney in early January. I haven't gotten anything back from them, but I've done a records request with the schools to try to get some, find some information about the property. And I did get from the schools an opinion about the deed restriction from 1975, from an attorney in town by the name of David Meekison. And I don't know if anybody remembers that name. And this was to the school superintendent at the time, Dr. Thomas Strick. And basically it stated that the Luce family did not have a claim to the use restriction or reversionary interest in the property. But however, our counsel, Tony Johnson from Sunderman and Rhodey, explained that in his opinion, the restriction is still valid, and the case law that has been reviewed, it appears that, at least to today's, the case law that exists, Mr. Meekison's interpretation is not correct in that. So, in other words, long story short is the deed restriction is still in place with, there's no, there still is a, that reversionary potential for that, any heirs to the Luce family. We've also been informed that the Luce deed is the root of title for the property, so this means that according to the Marketable Title Act, the root of title will remain in effect for 40 years after the transfer of the property. So when the schools transferred the property to the, at the time, the Civic Center, that 40-year clock started. So there's still roughly about 35 years left before that deed restriction does go away. So that said, I have not purchased, or I have not signed the purchase agreement at this time. I've informed the CCHC president of this information. At this time, I'm recommending that the city not move forward with the purchase of Luce Field as it was presented and passed by city council at the time, due to the discovery of this information. We've remained involved in conversations with the CCHC and other parties. If anything else and any other plan materializes, it'll be brought back to city council for consideration. So, that summarizes the update for this field. So that's it. Unless council wants to move forward with the purchase of Luce Field for $100,000 with the deed restriction on it, that's definitely something we can pursue and continue, but that is not my recommendation at this time. So we'll still continue to have conversations with them about any outcomes that could happen at on that property, but definitely not good news for, the way the citywide master plan reads. That property is kind of deemed as a, highest and best use for it being a mixed-use development, commercial and residential. So not good news for that, but, there could be other alternatives, and, hopefully it just doesn't turn into a nuisance property. But I think it's in everybody's best interest to find an outcome that everybody can live with. It's an important piece of property for the city, and ideally located for that mixed-use development. So we'll see. Stay tuned.
That
Anybody?
40-year clock, that's a one-time set, right? If CCHC sells it, their 40 does not reset, right?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Unless they themselves put
The restriction.
restriction on
Okay.
and keep it going.
Okay.
But it's my understanding. I don't,
That's why we got law directors.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Hence that's what, I've been talking with Tony Johnson, and that's where the root of title comes in. So that's where the loose deed is the root of title, and since it hasn't transferred since
Okay.
the first donation of that land was made. I think the schools have owned it the whole time.
Thank you. All right, we'll go around the table here and go to the city. And I'd love if we start with Kevin.
I got nothing to add.
Okay, Molly,
Nothing, thank you.
Lori.
I just want to thank Jeff Weiss. Recently had a call for an issue with the water out at the filling home, and he just did an awesome job of giving information and helping us get stuff on track, and very professional, and I just want to thank him for that.
Thank you. Ross,
Nothing.
Mr. Mayor.
One of the benefits of attending the annual APPA National Legislative Rally is you get to meet people from across this great country of ours. And this past Monday night, I was able to meet the mayor from Denton, Texas, the Honorable Gerard Hudspeth. Denton, Texas is where North Texas University is. Also, they're making Peterbilt trucks over 120 plus a day, and it's always nice to hear it. So we traded lapel pins, so tonight I put my Napoleon one down and put my Denton, Texas one on, and he sent me a picture that he had done that already when they had their council meeting. So thank you very much, Gerard. Appreciate it. Best of luck there in the great state of Texas. Offer congratulations to the Lady Cat Bowlers, second place at state. Great job, girls. Also, great job to the Napoleon High School girls basketball team and boys basketball teams. Good luck to our state wrestlers. Congratulations to Kyle Hudson, state champ in swimming. I have asked, along Roxanne's helped me ask Andy Ham to have Kyle here, hopefully at our next meeting, for congratulations from us to him. And then also, I understand there was a basketball game last Monday night that the traveling trophy didn't have to travel very far. I think it stayed at the police department by 3 points for the fourth year in a row or something like that. But the important thing was that $2,000 was raised. I'm sure it's not overly important that the firemen lost again. It's $2,000, that's the important part. That's always the important part. Thanks, that's all I have.
Dan.
The fire department unfortunately had to play without their chief because he was here at our meeting.
That's true, they played a man down. That's right,
Yeah,
Coach,
so
that's a good point.
they were a man down, but the police department still won, so anyway. Anyway, the Ohio Municipal League has regional conferences occasionally, and back in 2016, I attended one over in Findlay. They will be having another one. It was off due to COVID, but on Friday, August 5th at the Hancock Hotel there in Findlay. And the registration information is not out just yet, but I am interested in going, and it would be, I think, good if a couple other council people could attend also, because I found it to be very informative when I went. It's just a day-long thing there at the Hancock Hotel, and I think the registration information comes out in the near future. But that's something I'm very interested in going to, so, but hopefully somebody else too.
Yeah. Let us know if you see that information come across.
If I run across
Share
it or Roxanne runs across it, well,
That'd be great.
let me know. And that's all.
All right, thank you. Ken?
Thank you to the street department for keeping up with the potholes as best they can. It's been a nasty year for that.
Yes. It has.
That's all I have.
Okay. Dave?
Don't have anything to add.
Billy?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Joel?
Nothing?
All right. And we'll move on to item N, approve payment of bills. In the absence of any objections or corrections, payment of bills shall stand approved. Hearing none, they stand approved. And I have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Rox, please call the roll.
Dr. Dave?
Yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
John?
Yes,
Dan?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
we are adjourned.